Okay, so in this video, I'm going to teach you how to do a barbell deadlift. It's a conventional deadlift using a barbell. The most important thing that we need to talk about first is what kind of plates you're using. I always use bumper plates because they're all exactly the same size. So whether I have a 25 kilo plate or a 5 kilo plate, which is really thin, they're made out of rubber and they're all exactly the same size. The 25 kilo plate or the 10 kilo plate is just thicker, it's like denser and actually thicker than the smaller plates. What it means is that the barbell is always at exactly the same height. So it's always going to be a few centimeters up your shin. And if I measure this from the floor, it's actually a 20 centimeter distance from the floor to the bottom of the barbell. This matters. Why does it matter? Because a lot of gyms have these crappy plates, and if I put that next to the big plate, can you see the difference in height? And that barbell is only going to be a few centimeters off the floor. It's going to mess with your deadlift technique, and most people simply are not flexible enough to be able to deadlift something from this low off the floor. If you're using these kind of regular gym plates, you'll find that the bigger plates are the right height, but they weigh 20 kilos or 45 pounds. And so it's not a good weight to start deadlifting with for most women. Anyway, you have two options. Either use these bumper plates, which are all the same uniform size. This is what I always work with. This is what I have in my studio. The other option is to just use something to prop the weights up. If you're using those smaller plates, like these 5 kilo plates here, you just want to make sure that you're using one of those like step aerobic things or something like, you know, like those Jane Fonda things from the 1980s that are always scattered around gyms. Well, they actually are useful for something. You can use them for this. They just might need a bit of dusting off from like 3 decades ago. Anyway, so now that we know that we're all deadlifting off the same height, and some of us aren't deadlifting like from 2 centimeters off the floor, let's get started with the technique. Okay, so the technique for this movement is exactly the same as with a kettlebell, just only now you don't have a kettlebell between your feet, so you can have your feet a little bit closer together. Again, make sure you're not on any cracks because it's bad luck. You want to shuffle towards the barbell and get your feet directly under the barbell, and then you're going to sink your hips back towards the back wall like we've done in every version of the deadlift so far. Your knees are going to track over your 4th toe. Don't let them cave in because then you won't use your bum as much. And your hands are going to fall down completely perpendicular to the floor like pendulums. And you're going to grip the bar just slightly wider than your shins. Okay, so if I show you from this position, from here, we're just going to sink our bum back down and lift our shoulders up and engage our lats and straighten the back. You want to make sure that the barbell is right over the middle of your foot. You're making that nice triangle and the bar is touching your shins because they're leaning a little bit forward. Okay, so no lifting with a rounded back. You don't want to break the triangle this way and you don't want to break the triangle this way. You want to make a nice triangle, straighten your back, engage your lats, shoulder blades in the back pocket, just like we did with the kettlebell deadlift. Okay, so I'm just going to shift around to this diagonal angle. From here, what you're going to do is the exact same thing. You're going to push the floor away and stand up, hinging your hips forward. So it looks like this. Getting in my setup position, from engaging the lats, pushing the floor away, standing up, and hinging the hips forward, and then bum back, putting the barbell back down over the feet. Set up again at the beginning of every rep. Make sure your bum's below your shoulders, your back's nice and straight. Push the world away, stand up, hinge your hips forward, bum back, back down onto the floor. And between each rep, you want to reset your position. Make sure you're not picking up from this rounded back position. Another thing that I want you to think about is shaving your shins with the barbell, and then as the rest of the movement, you're going to bring your hips to the barbell, okay? So think about it, you shave your shins, nobody shaves their thighs. So you want to do the same thing with the barbell. You shave your shins on the way up, and then you hinge your hips towards the barbell. You don't shave your legs, because then you don't shave your thighs, because that's weird. Okay, so from that start position again, I've got the barbell against my shins. I'm going to set up, lats back and down, straight back. I'm touching my shins with the barbell. I'm going to shave my shins. When I get to the knee, I'm hinging my hips forward to the bar, and then lowering the weight back down. I think it's a really good idea to build up your weight and your confidence in the technique. Oh, this is moving. Using kettlebells first, because it's much easier to deal with the weight that's between your legs rather than dealing with getting around your knees. So if you have heavy kettlebells, build up from like a 10 kilo kettlebell up to a 30, 32 kilo kettlebell, and then start working on a lighter weight with the bar. Most people find that using a 15, 20 kilo bar with 5 kilos on each end, so 25, 30 kilos, is a good place to start working on the technique, making sure that it's the right height to start with. Once you feel really confident with the technique, you can start to increase the weight. Again, you want to do it gradually and get really, really used to it. But before long, most women are able to deadlift their body weight for at least a few reps. Most men, with a bit of training, are able to deadlift 1.5, 2 times their body weight. I know that sounds nuts, and you don't have to deadlift that kind of weight, but getting up to 30, 40, 50 kilos can just be a massive game changer for your back strength, for your posture, for coping with everyday life, and for just feeling like a boss in the gym. So that was a barbell conventional deadlift. Let me know if you need some more help with some of the technique, and I'll make a video troubleshooting some of the problems.